I am Randissimo here with.
Cage's Willy.
And Cage's Willy. We have a great show, a great second episode to our live seasons of our podcast. And got a little preview right there. It's Willy's Wonderland, people. Willy's Wonderland.
Live from Willy's Wonderland, we have ATA reviews. But just picture that in Rob Schneider voice, and that's it.
Yep, very much so. It's man, when we're trying to figure out what to review for the first little 2021 review, that was just about one movie. You recommended this one. You're like, Randy, no matter what we do in life, none of that matters unless we review Willy's Wonderland starring Nicolas Cage.
I mean, you're paraphrasing. I said, hey, Nicolas Cage is showing us his Willy. We need to get on that before 2020 is over. Unfortunately, it went beyond 2020 for its release, but still, it's in the spirit of 2020. And honestly, look at the tagline for the poster. I mean, it says 2020 isn't over yet, kids. So I don't understand what it has to do with the movie. Absolutely nothing. But they had the right idea. With things happening the way they did for 2020 and quarantining and COVID, this movie was just hilarious fun for me, which is what I went into it expecting. In the same vein, I want to say as like Ginger Dead Man when we did that review, but I knew what I was getting into, and honestly, I was not disappointed with my expectations. So, yeah,
fair enough. Yeah, I went into this fairly blind. I read the log line and like a couple of reviews, and I didn't know what to expect, so I had no expectations. But I put down my credit card, dropped $20, like, all right, fuck me up, Nick, fuck me up. And it was interesting because at first I was watching the opening clip, not to get into spoilers too much, and just the way it was shot, it felt really manic and really campy, and I was like, oh, this is going to be awful, like a bad movie, right? Like, it just seems poorly shot, poorly acted. And then I realized what kind of movie I was watching. Then I settled in and like, okay, so you got one of these going. All right, let's go. Where's my whiskey? And it was a fun ride. It was a fun movie. It is in the same vein as Ginger Dead Man. It's one of those movies where you want to watch something that's kind of bad, but in a good way. Like it's fun enough. It's self-aware enough. It's intentionally the kind of movie it is, just to be goofy and fun and kind of irreverent. And I fucks with it. I'll probably watch it again before the year's up. Honestly, Willy's Wonderland's a good time. I recommend you check out that Willy for sure.
Eat your heart out, Chuck E. Cheese. That should have been the tagline for the poster. I don't know who dropped the ball, but either way, let me just get into what I enjoyed. Spoiler free, obviously. But this movie obviously had a lot of hype behind it, fully taking advantage of a very popular indie game, right? Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, exactly straight up Five Nights, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a ripoff of Five Nights at Freddy's. They've been trying to make a movie of it for years. Last I checked, which was I think about a year ago, they were making some official Five Nights at Freddy movie, and they had leaked some of the images of like concept art for the animatronics. But then I heard nothing, so I just assumed either it was outright canceled because of the pandemic, or it's in development hell, which never bodes well for a movie anyways. But this movie came out, in terms of information, for me at least, like 5 or 6 months ago. And then from there, I was just like, okay, so this is what they're going to try to do. Take advantage of Five Nights at Freddy's without calling it Five Nights at Freddy's. I could get behind this depending on how they try to do it. If they try to be too serious with it, it just doesn't work because it's a live action. I feel like for live action films, you need some kind of, some kind of humor involved if it's an adaptation of something like this. Otherwise, it'll just fall flat on its face. It'll be like that kid in school who tries too hard and he just makes everyone hate him because it's just completely unwarranted. It's like doing Common Core for solving simple addition problems. Like it's just pointless. Uh, but this movie, like I said, it didn't take itself too seriously at all. As a matter of fact, I almost want to say this movie didn't take itself seriously whatsoever. But that's what added to the charm of it. You have just Nicolas Cage, who's just been, I don't know. I don't know if he's been canceled or he's just been found out as a bad actor. I don't know what's going on here, but he is just in a bunch of straight to Redbox-esque, straight to like B movie roles that I haven't even seen a Nicolas Cage movie. I can't tell you in God knows how long. But when I saw him in this, and then I saw the trailer, and I knew he would be like a character that doesn't talk, and he's just very hammy by nature. I was like, you know what, that could work for Nick Cage. I think that's a formula for success for a Nick Cage movie, and I was not disappointed at all.
I think the last movie I saw him in was Mom and Dad. If you saw that one, I think that came out in maybe mid 2010s. But the premise of that movie is, for some unbeknownst reason, all parents are trying to kill their kids. It's actually a nationwide pandemic where some kind of bug happens where parents cannot help but to try to kill their kids specifically. No other kids, no other parent, just murder their kids. And Nicolas Cage I think his whole career is B movies. I don't think this is a recent thing. He will literally do any movie. Is what I realized about Nicolas Cage. Like literally any movie. And he always works best when he's hamming up. So that's why once I saw that Nicolas Cage was in this type of movie, I kind of accepted what I was going to see. I was like, all right, they're going to really amp up Nicolas Cage, just be ridiculous. And they do. It's like, who's the fucking star of Drive and
Ryan Gosling?
Yes. It felt like Ryan Gosling's Drive as a protagonist, kind of with a Nicolas Cage impersonation thrown into Five Nights at Freddy, directed by the guys who made Ginger Dead Man. That's what this felt like. And it worked for the type of movie it was. I think the only thing I didn't like about it is that it is a ripoff of Five Nights at Freddy. Like, it's like overtly, it feels, right? Like it's not even hiding it. And I feel bad because I want Five Nights at Freddy to, do their own franchise thing. And now I don't think they really can, right? Like, I mean, they can. It's just the Willy beat them to the punch. But I mean, hey, he kind of snoozed on that one. So Willy really set the scene there as to how we could do campy animatronic horror comedy. And now this is it. And it's not the first one to do it. There's like there's a few other ones out there, including a 5-minute Hulu short that's pretty much that, like an animatronic thing that eats and murders kids. So they're out there, but this one, man, I recommend seeing it, and in safer times, see it with a group of people. Maybe have some vices around you to support your enjoyment. You don't have to, but I think it would help. I was talking about if I were to ever finally do shrooms, I kind of want to watch this movie on shrooms. Although I know that would just be a bad trip. Like, I just know I would feel like one of the kids that were trapped in this Willy Wonderland house, and it would feel like Nicolas Cage is fighting right in front of me. But I don't know. I kind of want that experience because I would have seen it mostly sober was really fun. So I can't imagine seeing it elevated. But I recommend this movie. You like some silly shit. If you ever seen Ginger Dead Man or anything of the sort.
Leprechaun in the Hood.
Leprechaun in the Hood. That's a good one. Even like Freddy versus Jason. Like just straight up horror campy comedy that has zero actual acting in it. It's shot in a manic way, which I can't even describe the cinematography in this movie that well, other than let's always hold the camera diagonally. It works for me. And if you like those movies, it'll work for you too.
So really, what my biggest question for you is, man, would you say that this movie tickled your Willy? Did Nick Cage tickle your Willy in this movie?
Oh yeah, certifiably. Absolutely. He explored my Wonderland, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. There was one moment of Nicolas Cage playing a pinball and dancing that is burned into my memory forever, and I will treasure whatever the fuck he chose to do in that scene. It was gorgeous. It was comparable to Napoleon's dance sequence at the end of Napoleon Dynamite. That's how much I felt for his little pinball 80s dance during the act 3 of this movie. It's it's beautiful. It was beautiful. Oh yeah. Check it out. I'm going to watch this movie again this year. Kind of sadly. I know I will.
We got to find a way to do live streams of us watching shit. We might be able to do it on Twitch, but we could probably Twitch stream us watching that movie and commentating on it. I think I would really enjoy that, actually. That could be a future segment that we do.
Yeah.
But now we're going to get into the spoiler portions of things. If you're not ready, just pause it, go back and watch Nick Cage's wonderful performance in Willy's Wonderland, and then hop back on. But right now we're about to enter some spoilerish territory. So you've been warned. Go watch Willy's Wonderland if you haven't. But for the rest of you, my God, I have, just like you really love that pinball dance sequence, my legitimate favorite part of that movie is when he's handcuffed by the lady who comes and gets him, and he kicks a jukebox. He kicks something. I don't know what it is. And Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes starts playing. But then he starts doing this weird thing with his head, and then the lighting gets all psychedelic, and it'll just that's what I envision your trip would look like.
Probably.
When you watch this movie on shrooms, you're going to see Nick Cage in your vision. He's just going to start spazzing out with his head like this in a Nick Cage fashion, and he's going to like rip out your intestines, and then you find out you're an animatronic, actually. But that's bar none my favorite part of this entire film.
He starts snapping my neck with his thighs like a Sonya finishing move in Mortal Kombat. That's fair. I think what was so great is how straight the character was played, right? This movie does not work, I think, with almost any other actor, because you don't sense that Nicolas Cage is actually giving a serious performance. His acting tones already lends itself to someone being campy. Like maybe the last movie you saw him in was probably Kick-Ass, if you haven't seen something like Mom and Dad. He was really campy in there too. Just him getting spoiler alert, but when his finale scene was coming in, he was just kind of screaming instructions. It's really weird, campy Nicolas Cage decisions, and it fucking carries through. Borderline no dialogue from Nicolas. That's his whole character of just like, I think they could just call him the janitor. That's how he's credited as. He's just the janitor. And he's taking his job really, like he made a deal to clean up this place, take breaks, and then he'll get his car back. And he took that absolutely literally. Like, that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to clean up the place. Okay, an animatronic's going to try to kill me. I'll kill it, and then I'll continue cleaning up the place. Watch goes off. Take the break. I'm not doing shit during my break. Not a goddamn thing until I finish the soda, which represents the different nights, and then I'll go back to clean. It was the straight performance was excellent. Best acting in that specific context I've seen all year.
I have to agree with you, man. And I'm not sure what overall message the director was trying to send out, if there was one. But in my head, I'm just like, yeah, Nicolas Cage clearly represents minimum wage workers in America, right? Their responsibilities are way too high, especially during a pandemic, way too dangerous. They don't get paid enough for this shit. So you know what? I'm going to take my fucking breaks, and I'm going to take them as often as I can. And that's exactly the whole vibe I got from this film. It was just like Five Nights at Freddy's, because in Five Nights at Freddy's, if you remember, audience members, when you win the 5 nights, you survive the 5 nights, you end up getting like a really shitty paycheck of like, I don't know, some ridiculous amount, where I think you end up totaling getting paid like $4 an hour, some ridiculous number like that, and then you fired. Right, so if you don't die by the animatronics, you get fired at the end of the game. I feel like that's exactly the energy this movie captured. So that's one of the things I really loved about it, was that it knew where it was pulling source material from, and it stayed true to it, and it just transferred over really well. So good job to the director for making it feel video game-esque, because it just worked. It worked so well. And here's the thing I wanted to ask you, man. Do you think when they casted Nicolas Cage, they did it because of the name and the brand associated with it? Or do you think the director was just like, you know what? I know Nicolas Cage is limited in terms of acting range, right? But if I take away his lines, this role is perfect for him. Or do you think he had lines originally for him and he's like, you know what, Nick? Just don't talk. You just look the part and use your body to act. Just don't speak. It's kind of like when a beautiful girl or a woman is on a date with a really handsome man, but he's like a fucking moron. And the girl's just like, you know what? Just don't speak. Just stand there and let me bask in your beauty, and that's it. I feel like that's exactly what this was, in my opinion. But what do you think in terms of him not talking as a character?
Oh no, Nicholas is best when he's talking. Usually, before this film, that's where his campiness really thrives. When you hear him say his ridiculous shit, he has some good monologues in Mom and Dad, which is a campy fucking movie of, again, parents killing their children, which I definitely recommend you see. It might be on Amazon right now or Hulu. But in Mom and Dad, he has some really good monologues that are just carried by his Cage energy. So I actually think I was surprised they made him the silent character, because usually that's what I want from Cage. Just if I got to watch a Cage movie, I want him to cage it up, right? I'm already invested in the Cage movie. Be Cage. So I think it actually was impressive of the restraint, his controlled energy he had in this, where he can harness everything he would usually just spew in a very animated way, and he just fucking kept it in his face. Like, he played it. He was actually a good actor in this, in its sense of what they wanted him to do, which was you can't react to everything. Everything is pretty straightforward to you. You don't get scared. You don't get frazzled. You just remove obstacles in your way. That's it. And I think, like, my favorite bit's probably him dancing, but I think a close second is when him and the main teenage girl are about to fight the fucking tongue alien animatronic. Watch goes off. He leaves and hands her the knife so he can go back on his break. I love that so much. I was fucking
I'm taking my
dying.
fucking break. I told you, man.
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I think your working class comparison is the perfect annotation for this movie of already asking for bullshit. And since we live in a capitalistic country, I'm going to do said bullshit because I need my money or whatever I want in the end. And if shit's starting to burn down at work or something, I mean, it's not my problem if I'm on break. So, you guys deal with that.
I also absolutely love the fact that, well, two things. All right. The first thing was when he had that weird moment when he was presented with the job. He has like this stare down with Willy's sign in front of the restaurant. Like, he knew what was about to happen somehow. It was a calculated risk. He's like, I know these motherfuckers are trying to kill me, or at least trying to get one over on me. But you know what? I'm a fucking badass. So deal. I'll beat you at your own game. So that's just one really random part of that movie that I thought was interesting. The second one, and I don't know if this was intentional, but there was something aesthetically really pleasing about seeing him clean up all of that fucking mess. Like, seeing him wipe down that pinball machine and like degrease ovens and just make it more organized spoke to the inner person in me who has just the biggest disdain for messes. So I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, clean that shit up, Nicolas Cage, you got this. So I don't know if that was meant to be on purpose, as like
your ASMR there.
Yeah, some ASMR for me. I wasn't sure if that was on purpose by the director to kind of reaffirm that, he was also, quote unquote, on the nose, cleaning up the situation as well as he was cleaning up the restaurant. But I don't know, man. Did you get those ASMR vibes, those aesthetically pleasing vibes? You're like, something I really like about seeing him take breaks and clean some shit. I don't know.
There's one scene in particular where it was definitely intentionally shot to be kind of sexual, with Nicholas cleaning something. It's like he was kind of first self-introduced to the pinball machine. This series of shots there are just straight up sexual. He's wiping it down really slowly. He's kind of like fingering the buttons, just testing it out. He's like pulling the lever, just fucking pulling it. It's very sexual. And then that's clearly what he goes to at every break. So I'm like, okay, all right, this is all right. It's important to him. Clearly, it's really important to him. So I found that one to be interesting. And going back to like the Nicolas Cage stares, he has a lot of stare because he has to do stares. That's how he communicates with his eyes, essentially, in this role. And I think the first time it was actually always creepy. Like when he first saw the main teenage protagonist girl, and she was getting taken away by her adopted mom, and he just kind of stares at her for like 7 seconds. It was like, and like, it did seem like he has some kind of insight of like he's assessing the situation and what's going on, and he kind of figure out, all right, well, something's, not great, but I'm gonna go through the motions and it'll work out or not. When the kids are like, hey, we're gonna burn this place down, hey, get out of here, we want to save you. He was like, all right, I ain't got time for this. I gotta finish cleaning that bathroom, man. But he just said it with his eyes the entire time. Very expressive. Very expressive.
Man just loved his. It's really a story about what a man will do to save his car, right?
It's true.
Because he goes through all this because his car gets flat tires, and he has the money to pay to fix it, but that town doesn't take credit card or has an ATM machine to withdraw cash. Now, here's what I thought they were gonna use as some kind of avenue for setting up a sequel, was the fact that in the beginning of the film you see this couple before Nick Cage gets introduced, and they're getting killed by the animatronics at Willy's Wonderland, and you just see a bunch of lights starting to explode as the lady is trying to run towards the exit. And then when they talk about the ATM machine and how there's no internet in that town, I'm like, oh shit. Okay, so they purposely shut down the internet in the town because somehow the spirits of these things can either move through electrical currents or like Wi-Fi signals or something. And even though Nick Cage destroyed the animatronics, they're not actually dead because that was just a vessel and their spirits can live on. I thought they were going to go that route. But no, it's very straightforward. It's very simple. You know exactly how this movie's going to end. It's going to be Nick Cage fighting these animatronics with Willy being the last one. And it's going to be a gauntlet. It's gauntlet style, this whole movie. Think of John Wick in Parabellum, just working his way up to the final boss Zero. Except picture that with Nick Cage and a bunch of furry animatronics.
That's a fair John Wick comparison. It is John Wick meets Ryan Gosling's Drive meets just Nicolas Cage. That's exactly his vibe. It was so weird how, like, he kicked every animatronic's ass. Then he got to Willy, and Willy was kicking his ass. So all he really needed to do to upgrade his situation was like a stick and a bag of soda, 5 soda cans.
Beat you up with my snack.
That's pretty much it. I'm like, all right, that's enough. That's all he needed was some pseudo nunchucks and a stick. It was level. It was leveled game there.
It's like an elaborate RPG game where you level up and buy better items. But for this game, I guess knapsack or pillowcase of soda cans and a broken broomstick are top-notch weapons. Like in the hands of Nick Cage, they're top-notch weapons. One thing I did enjoy whenever directors can do this, I admire it, is showing and not telling. Right in the beginning, as he's driving his car, you see the dog tags hanging from his rear view mirror. You're like, okay, well, that means he's part of the military. That's probably explains why he's slightly crazy and none of this stuff affects him, or he's scared of any of this stuff because he's in the fucking military. He's probably seen some shit. So him being very prepared for these kind of chaotic situations made sense, and they did it in a very subtle way, and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, the only weapons he uses in this movie are a stick sometimes, his fisticuffs, sodas for the final bad guy, and his thunder thighs to choke out whatever Siren Sarah, whatever her name was, this weird Tinkerbell looking animatronic. But Yeah, he was a man that didn't require many tools, to say the least.
Yeah, not many. I think he used like some kind of wire thing once, maybe to snap that tongue lady or tongue person's. Um, I think that like ballerina one was taken straight from Five Nights at Freddy's sister location. There's like a character that looks just like that one who moves in the same
Oh yeah,
like
Ballora.
kind of spider, yeah, spider kind of movement. And there's another one too that looked just like one of the other ones. But again, this is a straight rip, so it makes sense. I'm glad they played it this way because there's clearly a script out there where Nicolas Cage isn't a character at all. It's just the teenagers trying to destroy this place that have killed a lot of their friends and whatever. And then they end up trapped in there and then they have to get out. That easily could have just been a movie, and that would have been awful. Like an awful movie, I think, of just those five whatever teenagers who were all really annoying to me. Just trying to make it because they have all those horror beats of like, oh man, like I'm hiding from the animatronics, or teenagers fucking and dying after while fucking, and all those same tropes, and they kind of speed through all of them. I'm like, all right, they're just gonna die except for the main kid, and I'm glad they did that because I didn't care about any of those characters. I think the one guy I did like where he was at least trying to like get the fuck out of there. Was a man, he was fucking his girl.
Let's give him a show, baby. I love that.
Exactly. I think he's watching us. Let's give it a show. Let's give us a show. I love that. There's some good lines in there. There's definitely some good lines in there where, otherwise these kids were kind of insufferable, and it was fine if they died. I love that the police officer or the police officer slash that woman's adopted mom. How she got done dirty by Willy at the end, where she was just like slashed in half.
I fucking hated her as a character. So kudos to that
Yeah.
actor. But what a wholly unlikable and hypocritical character. I was so glad that she got her death the way she did. She had, I think, the most satisfying death for me in the movie.
Yeah, for sure. Just fucking swiped in half. And then that set up Willy's strength. Like, oh, he can swipe a human body in half. Like, all right, cool. All right, that he has
Swiper, no swiping.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure every animatronic died too, right? Like somewhere on screen, every single one died. So, not sure if they would do a sequel or not. I mean, honestly, they might as well milk it. Like Five Nights haven't put out their shit yet. As much as I love that franchise as a video game and the lore of itself, just milk that Willy. Just milk it out. Do the brother location of Willy.
Listen, I completely agree. It's not one of those movies, like I said, where you expect great things out of it. But I think they have enough to do one more without it overstaying its welcome. So we'll see what happens. One of the things I really enjoyed about this movie, and I think this is where they were just like, okay, this is really what people want to see. This is where we're going to allocate most of the budget. I want to say 90% of the budget went towards this. It's going to be the animatronics. People want to see how the animatronics are going to look. And we have to do this weird blend of making them zany enough where it's funny, but also terrifying because it's so funny. And I actually think that was the highlight of this movie for me, especially the ostrich animatronic in the beginning, the way they had it move around its neck and like swipe at Nick Cage. I thought that each one of these animatronics were cleverly named. In this, like, it just sounded like it belonged in Five Nights at Freddy's, and just the way the animatronics moved and attacked, very well done. It's like a perfect blend of, okay, clearly these are childlike figures, like in Chuck E. Cheese, giant mouse. One's a gorilla, one's a knight. I think they call him Night. But they still found just enough little details to add to them to make them look intimidating. I know the siren character had like a really fucked up mouth, like Melina in Mortal Kombat. That added to her charm. The crocodile just like chomping at you really fast with bloody teeth. That was semi terrifying. And then Willy with his like rotting look, like he had the most rotted look out of all the animatronics, and just the way his eyes were slightly closed when they stared at you. I thought that was very intimidating. What did you think of the animatronics, man?
I liked them when they weren't fighting Nicolas Cage usually. Like there was some close, like when he battled the gorilla in the bathroom. I was pretty much just laughing because it looked awful. Like literally them shooting the fight scene looked awful. Because clearly they couldn't have a John Wick Raid Redemption choreographed thing with Nick versus these animatronics. So those looked awful, but from a character design, I love the design, especially that woman one who's just really creepy, like the one who there was like a flashback of a kid about to like try to squeeze her boobs, and she was like, "Haha, wanna fuck?" And I was like, "Oh, that was terrifying and awful."
But yes, I do.
But she actually moved in a cool way because she had the whole kind of like loose crab like walk at times, and she was very limber. So she was actually, I was like, oh wow, she's kind of scary actually. That does not look at some kind of weird uncanny valley effect was happening.
It's not a coincidence that they showed her the most. I think she was the most interesting animatronic. You're right.
Yeah, she definitely carried it. And I think was she the one at the end who killed those two guys, blew them up?
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
she did a kamikaze attack on the last two.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping she would like kind of survive and be the new lead of the next group of animatronics or whatever. But yeah, the character designs are pretty fun. Yeah, it's and the lore is interesting too. It's kind of like, Chucky-esque. Like, all right, serial killers fucking people up, did a devil's ritual, and other souls are in an object that it shouldn't be. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. That's a fair trope. I feel like in some kind of Hellraiser world, I just want to see crossovers of this. Like I kind of want to see Chucky in this world. I want to see Ginger Dead Man in this world. I'll take an evil bong in this world. It's just so zany. I want it to live on. I want to be able to do in like 5 years a full Willy series review. That's what I want.
Did you get Doug Dimmadome vibes from that restaurant owner?
You know what? Now that you say it, yeah, I do. Yes, I do.
For those of you that don't know,
Doug Dimmadome, home of the dim sale Dimmadome.
Yes, exactly. The man who had hat for days to infinity.
It's the man.
That was exactly the vibe I got from that dude. The whole time I'm like, did they really just rip off the Fairly Odd Parents just like Five Nights at Freddy's? I thought that was a cool little observation. Maybe Easter egg. I have no idea, but that was funny.
Yeah, no, that's a spot on comparison. They were kind of, they like every character was kind of shitty, but I kind of liked them. They're just, I don't know, just idiots doing their little scheme. And then at the end of them, like, you know what? I think I might actually make it a real thing. And then it died with a horribly. They didn't put a lot of money into the explosion, but nonetheless, they went out the way they should. They went out the way and maybe that character survived, the ballerina character. I didn't see where her body landed. I'll have to revisit that, but
it looked like a Zoom background. That explosion.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. Like I said, the entirety of that budget went to the costume design for the animatronics, and that's fine. Listen, that's what I wanted to see anyways. But yeah, everything else just that's why I said the comedy worked for it, because otherwise it just would have destroyed the movie. But I think it added to the charm to have these really terrible looking fight scenes when it came to the animatronics, especially the one that stood out for me was when he was fighting with the handcuffs on, because he's taking on two animatronics. And he just walks up to one really slow and moves really slow and knocks it onto the ground while the other one just watches. That's the thing that pissed me off the most about this movie. Okay. For some strange reason, and I guess they do this in Five Nights at Freddy's now that I'm thinking about it, but not every animatronic is active on each night. So I guess that's the same concept here. But at least in Five Nights at Freddy's, they add a new animatronic, but the old ones still try to attack you. In this one, it almost felt like Power Rangers. Remember when the Putty Patrol would be dancing around the Power Rangers, but they would only try and attack one at a time while the other ones were still breakdancing?
Yeah.
This felt like for me. I didn't understand why these animatronics would just attack one at a time when they're all in the room. Did they just enjoy the challenge? Were they just finding it to be a fun little game? I don't know, and maybe I'm overthinking this way too much. But that really irked me. That they just came at him one at a time, and then it was really goofy looking the way he was taking them out. And I know Nick Cage is an old dude, can't be doing all this crazy choreography, but they could have done a little bit better, I think. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't like a well choreographed movie, but they all have their shtick, man. They have their shtick. They have specific roles that they like. They're really in character animatronics, so they can't all just be playing hide and seek in the bathroom. No, that's the gorilla shtick. The gorilla hides in the bathroom.
You're talking about Nick Cage had the stick, and he used it on almost all of them.
He did. He sticked them down. He sticked them down good. Yeah, I think one of my favorite personalities of the animatronics was the one who pretended to be like a good one to that one like trusting kid. I don't know. I just kind of like that vibe of like, you can trust me. I'm not like the rest.
First of all, he was my least favorite character aside from the cop lady. He was such a simp. It was crazy. Like just way too unbelievably simpy. And I did like that scene only because I think that animatronic is supposed to be a chameleon. So it made sense for that chameleon animatronic to kind of blend in and seem very innocent. But man, I was so happy when that character just died. I was so annoyed by hearing him over and over again. Just being Simp Lord McGee. There's no other way to describe it. All these characters are just extremes of different cliches when it comes to horror films. But he was by far the most annoying. And I'm glad he died. I was a little unsatisfied with his death, but I was glad nonetheless that he died.
I was unsatisfied too, because it was such a buildup of like, you can trust me kind of thing. I just wish they leaned into the gaining the trust kind of moment. Like, I don't know, they probably needed like 5 more minutes of runtime to do that. But yeah, clearly the focus was just how insane can we make Cage look? How can we make these animatronics look creepy? Also kind of bad, but also creepy and cool in a way. And how much kind of 80 vibes can we fit in here too? And they succeeded. They succeeded. My only real question in the grand scheme of things is, what the hell will Five Nights at Freddy do now? If they want to put like what will a Five Nights at Freddy movie look like now that Willy's Wonderland exists?
Hopefully better fight scenes. Actually, in reality, if they do a Five Nights at Freddy's, I think that's where they'll differ. Willy's Wonderland is more like a what if kind of scenario. Because when you play Five Nights at Freddy's, the terror of it comes from the fact that you can't fight back. You just have to hide and conceal yourself.
Yes.
So they decided for Willy's Wonderland, hey, what if you could defend yourself? What if you could fight back? Then this is what that scenario would look like. That would be Willy's Wonderland. I feel like if they did a Five Nights at Freddy's movie, they would have to go in the other direction, where the whole film is people having to hide and try to escape in an area where they have the tactical disadvantage because they're unfamiliar with the area. That, to me, would make it a true horror film and more exciting to watch versus this scenario, which is just straight up fan service of, well, okay, you've played Five Nights at Freddy's. Now here's what would have happened if you were a badass in that game. Boom.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they did. I'm really wondering if that would even work, because I think it would have to be one person too. Like also just if it was a Nick Cage type who couldn't fight the entire time, because I can't have those like teenage tropes of there's 5 of us and we all have a little person. Like, I don't give a shit about you. I just don't, and I don't think I can. The issue with Five Nights at Freddy, it's a terrifying game, and in reality, if there was like animatronics stalking me, it would be creepy. I think it might just come down to character design. If you have like this level of character design, they look cool, but all these characters are really kind of colorful too. Like they all have some kind of color and some vibrancy to them. I think Five Nights at Freddy would have to have like darker toned animatronics so that it actually feels scary and not silly when a bear tries to kill you in a security room. Because that's the problem. Because if it looks silly, then you're going to want to laugh at it. But if they do a serious tone to horror, then there's a disconnect. And it's no longer a horror comedy because they meant it It's just a horror comedy because it's a bad film. So that'll be the biggest challenge of how you can make it, if you want to go the serious route, not silly, because it is animatronics chasing after you. Like, I never found really the Chucky movie scary as a kid. It's a doll. It's a fucking doll. And then they leaned into the comedy of it all. Like, okay, I get it. It's a doll killing humans. Let's kind of lean into his Freddy-esque liners instead. So it'll be an interesting challenge they have. But that's probably where they need to go, where you don't have a badass kicking ass. You have a main character who can't do shit in maybe one room, and keep it like that.
That's the tricky part, honestly. It's actually why I believe we haven't really gotten successful anime adaptations either for live action, because by nature, Five Nights at Freddy's, and this to me is just my opinion, there's only certain adaptations you can't do because they're just perfect for a video game scenario.
Yeah.
So Five Nights at Freddy's, you're being chased by cute and cuddly looking animatronics, and it works in the realm of animation for a video game. But when it comes to live action, I don't think you can remove the comedy factor to it completely. It's just impossible. And if you do, it's just not going to be a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. It's going to feel like something completely different. So to me, that's always the inherent challenge. It's why we haven't gotten any really good anime type live action films either. But hey, prove me wrong. Like I said, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think one thing, and this is a pro and a con, but if they do go and pull the trigger on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, if they bring it to life, the problem with those games is there's, I think, 9 or 10 of them at this point, maybe slightly less, but they keep making them. And the plot for these games is just so overtly complex. If you go to like Game Theory or any of those other channels, they have videos spanning years because these games are so subtle with their approach and their overarching story that you have to read the extended universe novels to get extra little details to make sense of the story. No movie is going to be able to pull that off with like an hour and 40-minute runtime or a 2-hour runtime. And yeah, they can make sequels, but at what point are fans just going to be like, this is ridiculous? I can see that happening. It happened with the Saw franchise when they released so many of them. But even then, the Saw franchise didn't try to make this elaborate giant universe. It just kept milking how many different ways could we torture people. But that's the problem I see with Five Nights at Freddy's. But that's also the thing I really liked about Willy's Wonderland. They took the complexity of Five Nights at Freddy's, they condensed it into a more believable and scary plot for a film. So that's one of the things I liked, was the lore of the killer in Willy's Wonderland. It was just like this dude who opened up this Chuck E. Cheese-esque place called Willy's Wonderland, and he just is just a crazy serial killer. And he just uses this restaurant to lure kids in and kill them by taking them to what's called the fun time room or something like that.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do it by himself. He ends up recruiting and finding other people just as psychotic and murderous as him, men and women alike. And they all kind of form this super group of serial killers to lure these kids into this restaurant / entertainment thing and kill them. I really liked that part of the plot. I thought that was well done. So I think Five Nights at Freddy's would have to pull something like that off in order to even to have like a small chance of being a proper live action adaptation. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, again, it was really simple. It was like, we're murderers, deal with the devil, now we're animatronics. We still want to murder. So it was simple. I feel like with the Five Nights at Freddy games, people, like, they read into the lore, they dig into the lore, but the game itself doesn't show that lore off. The game itself is really straightforward. It doesn't really explicitly tell you the lore of everything that's happening. People just find the Easter eggs and make the lore up themselves, really. I think the only Five Nights at Freddy game that can almost work as an adaptation is the Sister Location one, where they inherently break out of the Soul security room format, and it's actually more of an exploratory game where you have a security room, but then you got to go into the vent to get to the next room. Then you have to hide under a desk because someone's trying to get you. Then you have to crawl to another room and assemble something while something's trying to kill you in the background, and you have these spider babies trying to crawl into a fucking thing you're in, and you have to shake them off, and all the while so a narrator, untrusting narrators are leading you through all this. That's the only one that actually had its own laid out narrative. Like the narrator in that one's talking about the ice cream with the girl and implying how she pretty much ate her, and that one's probably the easiest Five Nights lore to straight up adopt, where there's just like just being misled by this terrorizing unseen figure while you're trying to avoid all these animatronics. Other than that, it's just gonna be difficult. It probably just shouldn't work as a movie. Like, it just straight up just shouldn't work as a movie. The way the game actually, you would have to change it up like a Willy. At first I thought, oh, maybe they just adapted it to Willy themselves, but there was no attachment to that franchise. So I will give them 10 hard-earned dollars in support of making their Five Nights vision, whatever it is, come to fruition. I'm here for it.
Best money you ever spent, right?
Oh yeah. It's there's a lot of other movies I wanted to see too, that a lot of them are like $20. Like a lot of like the premiere movies right now are $20, and that's probably because no one's making money. So you know what? Power to you, Willy Wonderland. I hope you take my 20. You fucking spin that shit to a sequel, because I'll buy that one too. There's another 20 waiting for you.
Problem is, I think Overlord Amazon takes a good cut for hosting the stream as well. But, I digress.
Probably.
Either way, it's a steep price to pay for a B-level movie. But I honestly think it's just what we needed, man. It was just an overall fun ride. And can we just talk about the bops in this movie?
Ooh, the songs.
The songs were so good.
I actually really like them.
So
they fit really well.
So we're definitely inserting a clip of "It's Your Birthday and we want you to have fun. It's your birthday." Gotta have that in the beginning of the episode for the Spotify iTunes releases. But man, every song that the animatronics sang as like a checkpoint-esque kind of part, really good. Especially the song with like the 8 little chickies or 8
6 little chickens at the end of the line. Dun, dun, dun. That was my favorite one because it was actually creepy. Like, because he like kind of once you see like 6 little chickens at the end of 5 little chickens at the end of the line, is kind of indicating someone died. Like, oh, that's perfect. I love that. 99 bottles format to indicate the deaths of people. I love it. Give more of that. I want the soundtrack. I want an extended. That's why this movie needs to exist, so we can get more bops. For the soundtracks alone, I will fucking kickstart funds for the sequel.
There you go. Randissimo gave you his stamp of approval.
Did.
Go make it happen, and send us some free merch too. I'd love a Willy's Wonderland t-shirt so I could actually be Nick Cage's character for Halloween. That'd be dope. I'd love that shit.
That'd be impressive. That'd be impressive. Can I be the pinball machine?
Sure, man. You be whoever you want.
Which animatronic would you be?
That's what I was going to ask you. Which one? And let us know in the comment section which animatronic was your favorite. For me personally, if I had to rank them, I'd say the gorilla was my least favorite.
Yep.
Just because that scene kind of killed it for me in the bathroom. And his dialogue, too, wasn't really scary. It was just really spoofy for me. But my favorite was definitely... I think my favorite was the crocodile, just because it had this really scary scene where he's in the vent chasing down the main female protagonist. And as she narrowly escapes him chasing her in the vent, which is terrifying, when she gets out of the vent, you can see his like mouth still trying to chomp at her with like blood and saliva on its mouth. So I think that was my favorite aesthetically. But the siren one, probably my second favorite. And then Willy's in the middle somewhere, even though he had that cool fight scene at the end, final boss-esque type of fight with Nick Cage at the end before he leveled up with the power of soda. But he really didn't talk at all, which is ironic in this movie. All he ever did was the singing bits. But when he fights Nick, he actually doesn't say a thing. And he doesn't end up saying anything for most of the movie. He just moves his eyes a lot. So that kind of took away some of the charm for me. I really wanted the final boss to have maybe something meaningful to say, or at least have some like funny one-liners or something. But he really doesn't talk at all, which is disappointing. And then the other ones just kind of fall in the middle for me. The ostrich is probably my next favorite. The chameleon and the gorilla, my least favorite. The Spanish-speaking turtle didn't even speak Spanish properly, which kind of bummed me out. But he had just the least impressive death in the whole franchise, or in the whole movie, because he gets hit by a car at the end, and that's it. But yeah, to rank them, yeah, Willy falls somewhere in the middle, kind of forgettable. Gorilla's my least favorite. Favorite would either be the siren or the crocodile. What about you?
You know, Willy is kind of the mirror of the Nicolas Cage character, isn't he? Just a silent, doesn't say anything, just gets down to it. People respect that. And also the fight the janitor, Nick's character, had with the crocodile, they just pulled that death scene straight from Peter Jackson's King Kong. Pulled it straight
from the dinosaurs, right?
Yep. Where King Kong takes the T-Rex's jaw and tries to rip it open, punches him to keep it going, rips it open, and like pulls out his fucking tongue. That's pretty much exactly what Janitor did to the crocodile. So almost a shot-by-shot remake of a Peter Jackson scene.
He just loves that film, I'm sure.
Yeah, how can I incorporate my love for Peter Jackson's King Kong and my ripoff of Five Nights at Freddy? I'm gonna find a way. And he did. And it's the siren, the creepy moving chick.
Yeah,
that's my friend. I would be that chick for sure, because she's fucking terrifying. Just, I love the way she moves. Really creepy, weird, gonna fucking literally eat your heart out. So she's probably definitely the best. Gorilla is bottom tiered. And everyone else, just falls in the middle. Yeah, just for the reason of him mirroring the janitor, I do like Willy because of that. Like, he doesn't say anything. He still demands the respect of the entire townspeople. Everyone's literally just bowing down to him, which I don't understand, because he just got his ass beat by soda cans. So I would just imagine a shotgun would probably do something equivalent, right? Like,
that's exactly why I thought they were going to do something else in the movie where the animatronics were just vessels. Because then that would make sense. Be like, yeah, we could take them out despite casualties pretty easily, but they're just going to come back in a form where we can't hurt them at that point, right? Because now you can't shoot a spirit with a shotgun. But they just left this glaring plot hole open of just like, I guess everyone else is just a pansy ass in this town, and Nick Cage is just the biggest badass of badasses.
Wasn't there a scene where there was a flashback of cops raiding it? What happened in that scene? Like, did they not... gun them down?
So they didn't get to gun them down because they killed themselves, Jim Jones style, and then their spirits transferred into the animatronics.
Oh, right, that was before the animatronics.
And I guess their reasoning was like, people would think we were crazy, no one would believe us, and instead of losing more townspeople, we decided to feed it. I don't know. I just didn't really understand that. It just really bugged me. But that's not why you were watching this film anyway.
The plot really just came apart when she just started pulling at the threads there.
Exactly. This does not hold up, but that's perfectly fine, because I got what I wanted out of the movie. But you're right. Another thing that bugged the crap out of me was these animatronics were kicking ass, right? They one-shotted a lot of these characters, so they were able to show just how lethal they could be. And, of course, being animatronics, you would think, okay, they're robotic, they have extra strength, so on and so forth. And that's evident by the fact that Willy himself could claw someone's torso off with one swipe of his paw. But then when he immediately goes to attack Nick Cage with the same paw attack, all it does is like kind of scratch him on his body.
Not effective.
Right. It just doesn't rip his torso off. It's little inconsistencies like that. I just really hated, to be honest.
I think the only explanation is that there's deeper meaning to Nicolas Cage's character's background. He wasn't just like military. He was like a super soldier. I think that's the only explanation. He was a super soldier. That's it. He was like a Captain America of his time. And that's why he had no problem walking into the lion's den because and then they made that girl do the fucking Watchmen line when
Oh my God, yes.
God damn it. No, you say you're trapping the wrong guy. He's not stuck in there with them. They're stuck in there with him. It's like, all right. Okay.
They used that line in the trailer too, so I knew it was coming. But oh my God,
yeah. See, this is one of the few movies I've seen without trailers, and I like being able to do that. Is fucking watching a movie. I'm glad I did for this one. I'm glad I did. Everything was a surprise, including the tone itself, which I was like, wow, they're going to try to make this movie scary. Like when I was pressing play, halfway through, like, all right, it's exactly what it needed to be. It's exactly what it needed to be. Just a fucking corny, campy, kind of terrible, awesome comedy inspired, ripped straight from Five Nights, a franchise that's dearly beloved in the horror game community. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that
too, man. And that's why if we had to give it a rating out of 10, I would probably give Willy's Wonderland 5.5 to a 6 out of 10. And that's all encompassing. Just overall entertainment value for a movie, 5.5 to 6 out of 10. But I know that sounds harsh, but with this kind of movie, you'd expect it to be far lower, like a 3 or a 4 out of 10 at best.
Yeah, it earned that rating for sure.
It has its charms. It has its charms. It's a fun ride. It's just a great movie to distract yourself with, have a good laugh, enjoy some Nick Cage-esque performance, and some great one-liners, and see some cool-looking animatronics with some blood and gore. That's what you should go into expecting. That's what you get.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd probably give it a solid 5.15. Solid 5.15.
Very exact. Precise.
Yes, it earned every single decimal point. And yeah, I want the series to live on throughout the 2020s, fucking 2030s. Just do it. Just have 5 of these movies. Really stick it to Five Nights at Freddy and have 5 of these movies.
Just completely overtake that IP.
And then hopefully Five Nights can get their shit together, get their own movie franchise up and running, and then they can come to an agreement to do Freddy versus Willy.
There it is, the end game of this franchise. Willy's Wonderland pals versus Freddy Fazbear and Company.
I love
That's it. That's the movie I want.
Okay, we'll be there to direct it. I'll be there at least. I'm down. I'll put my name on this.
Kugler can have Black Panther. We can have Willy's Wonderland and pals versus Freddy Fazbear and Company. Boom.
And that's probably who should have what. Honestly, that's probably. But I'm cool with that. Cool with this movie. We both really enjoy it for what it is. Campy horror at its finest. Definitely recommend checking it out if you can. Right now, it's available on Amazon Prime and probably a couple other places for purchase. And yeah, stay tuned for more live reviews coming to ATA. We're going to try to do this weekly, so we'll figure out what we'll do next week. But in the meantime, you can check out our first ever live video that we did last week for ATA, where we described our top quarantine films of 2020. You can check out our Magic Conch podcast, which we also just launched a YouTube live episode series for too. So you can find that also at Malum Pictures at YouTube. You can find that on Twitch at Malum Pictures. You can find all of our work at malumpictures.com. Follow us on Facebook at Malum Pictures, at After the Act, at the Magic Conch. Whatever your needs, we'll provide it. Until next time, it's your birthday.
And we want you to subscribe. It's your birthday. And we want you to subscribe.
Ring that
now.
bell. Yeah. Peace.